Welcome back to Big Mike Sports, Atlanta born, Carolina raised, Detroit driven. I'm your host, Big Mike.
The one and only. I'm back!
And on Sunday, the Lions traveled down to New Orleans to face the Saints, a team that they haven't played since 2020. It's been just over 3 years when the Saints beat the Lions 35-29, a game in which the Lions took a 14-0 lead and then completely squandered it, getting outscored, I think, 35 straight points given up to the Saints in that game. Of course, that was one of the last games that Matt Patricia coached for the Lions. The game before that, I can't remember exactly what the score was. I think it was 52-45. It was a super mad comeback by the old Matt Stafford Lions. That game was also in New Orleans, where the Lions went down something like 35-10. It might have been even worse than that, but they stormed back and almost won the game in the fourth quarter with a huge comeback. That was the game where Cam Jordan had two pick sixes or something like that. Both teams were trading pick sixes by big guys because they kept trying to throw it from the 2-yard line. So anyway, things can get pretty wild when these two teams get together. The Saints coming in at 5-6. They're a team that's going to play you tough no matter what. They play really tough defense. They really try to possess the ball on offense. Really, quick, short passing game. Just trying to grind you out and get a win any way they can, usually the hard way. Then the Lions, of course, coming off of their pretty bad loss against the Packers on Thanksgiving, a game that they were just not ready to play, it looked like, especially in that first half. Now, things got a little better in the second half, but definitely looking to rebound from that last game. Of course, the Lions will have 10 days to prepare for this one, hopefully implementing some different things to help out the defense, which has not been very good lately. I saw a stat, I think since week 7, they've been the worst defense in the NFL. Not sure if that's in terms of scoring or yards, but it's most definitely in terms of scoring, I would say. Interestingly enough, the Lions defense is the 10th best defense overall in terms of yard, 5th against the run, which we knew already. They have a really stellar rush defense. Only 20th in passing yards, but then 24th in scoring. And one of the biggest reasons for the Lions' downturn, or quote-unquote downturn, they only lost the Packers game since that loss to the Ravens. But they probably should have lost to the Bears as well, but they were able to grind that win out. But also the other biggest issue is Jared Goff and the turnovers. On the season, the Lions are at -5 in turnover differential, and that is just bad, especially if you're a team like the Lions, where on offense with Jared Goff, he's supposed to be taking care of the ball and making good decisions, not doing anything too crazy, not forcing the ball or anything. But for whatever reason, the past couple weeks, whether it was the 3 interceptions against the Bears or the 3 fumbles against the Packers, Goff just hasn't really been, at his best. And it's not entirely his fault. The offensive line has not blocked incredibly well. After holding up super well earlier in the year, they've given up plenty of pressure. Goff holding on to the ball for a long time. And, it's just a recipe for disaster, especially with this defense, the way it's been struggling lately. They haven't been getting any sacks. They haven't been forcing very many turnovers. So, it's kind of a recipe for disaster when you got the offense turning the ball over and the defense not being able to do the same thing to the opposing offense. But this will be a decent chance for the Lions to do a little something here, as Derek Carr, not the best at protecting the ball, let's just say. And the Saints having a really difficult time scoring in the red zone, but then again, the Lions defense has been letting up a lot of red zone touchdowns, so it will kind of be, a battle of the wills, really. The Saints defense is really good, which will give the Lions some issues potentially, especially in the passing game. The Saints have the 7th best pass defense, 8th best scoring defense, and they get a lot of interceptions. So the Lions are really going to have to pick and choose when exactly to attack down the field. Goff's going to have to make some really, a lot better decisions with the ball in his hand. Got to get it out quickly. The one good thing for the Lions here, and it's the Saints defense, is the fact that they only have the 23rd best rushing defense in the NFL. So if the Lions are able to come back and pound the rock and really possess the ball, really looking at 35 minutes of time possession, hopefully, for the Lions there on offense with the running game, especially with Montgomery healthy and Gibbs, both of them healthy. they should really rely on the run game in this one, try and hold the ball. Now, you don't want to rely on the run game too much, and with Ben Johnson being the creative play caller that he is, I would look for him to dial up some play action passes at some really opportune times. Just can't get too cute with it. Just got to grind out the game with the run game. Really hold on to the ball for a while, and then take your shots with the play action passing game. The Lions are actually 7-4 against the spread this year. They've been really good against the spread in the Campbell era. I don't even know if this is their best record against the spread. Last year might have been even better. The Saints are a lowly 3-7-1 against the spread. The Lions being a 4.5-point favorite in this one. Saints 4.5-point underdog at home. And if you're gonna bet, that Saints against the spread is pretty tempting. But if you're gonna go Saints, I would go Saints money line, plus 175 there at the moment. The Lions have a 56.1% chance to win this one. I do expect them to come back and rebound and win this one, especially given all of the stuff that's happened the past couple weeks. The coaching staff has been really adamant that they're gonna really get hit fixed after all that. Instead of just as Dan Campbell said, quote unquote, yelling louder, they're really gonna get into it and make some worthwhile adjustments. And this coaching staff for the Lions is probably a little better than the Saints coaching staff. I mean, Dennis Allen, not the greatest head coach in the world, if you want to put it lightly there. Allen being the head coach of the Saints, it's a Lions coaching staff that's they got some good minds there. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do, and really looking forward to Jared Goff bouncing back because it hasn't been the easiest for him the past couple of weeks. Might have been back to back some of the worst performances he's had in a Lions uniform. So it'll be good to see Goff hopefully have a clean game with 0 turnovers after having 6 in his last 2 games. Another good note to keep in mind is that the Lions, dating back to the Dolphins game in 2022, October 30th, 2022, ever since then they have not lost back-to-back games, and they've gone on winning streaks of at least 3 games following a loss, which is one of those kind of measuring sticks that really separate the good coaches from the great coaches and the good coach from the bad coaches. How you follow up a loss, not stacking up losses, stacking up wins instead, and kind of coming back from that low of the loss. So really have a lot of faith here. Of course, this was one game actually that earlier in the season I had always pegged as a loss. Of course, not taking into account that the Lions would have lost to the Packers on Thanksgiving. That's one that I actually had as a Lions win. So this was one of those games, along with the Ravens game, that I always chalked up as a loss the entire season. But this game I had them losing after a pretty decent winning streak. But now that they've lost the game, and the Saints haven't been doing very much better recently either, coming off of a really bad loss to the Falcons where they didn't score a single touchdown, and a loss to the Vikings, their only wins being against the Bears and the Colts there. So, not exactly a team that's firing on all cylinders. And the Saints, you can't say very much better about the Lions at this point, although I guess the recent success has been a little bit better for the Lions, let's just say that. But the Saints are still a really tough team, really tough defense. Definitely have some aspects of that team that will make you worry. This is probably still going to end up being a pretty close game, especially in the first half, as both teams kind of try and hold on to the ball. And maybe in the second half things will open up a little more. Yeah, that total being only 46.5. It might be an under game. But then again, with the Lions offense being as good as it is, it's always possible that they kind of, uncork it and get loose a little bit, especially with their ability to hit on those explosive plays like that 75-yard rush by Montgomery that we saw in the Chargers game. And then Gibbs, of course, can break free at any time. And, people, in terms of the receivers on the Lions offense, people really like to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown and how he's a magnet for the ball. But you still be surprised by some of the other playmakers that the Lions have, particularly down the field. Jameson Williams, obviously the biggest one of those. He's good for 2 or 3, usually pretty long receptions. Every now and then he'll get loose for a 50-yard touchdown. So we'll see. Maybe they can get a little bit more of that going with that play action game I was talking about earlier. But other guys like Khalif Raymond, he's a small kind of speedster guy that really flies under the radar. He's a really good player. Besides being in his punt return role, he also shows up at receiver every now and then with a big play. So yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting game. Hopefully, the Lions will be able to bounce back against a tough team. I mean, this is potentially a Saints team that could still win their division and make the playoffs. So this will be another good measuring stick to see exactly how the Lions are right now after a couple bad performances, and it'll be another measuring stick to see how they'll bode through the rest of the season, where every team is going to be playing hard, giving you their best shot, and the Lions really have to prove that they belong in this playoff discussion as potential contenders. Now, of course, the real championship window, as we like to say, probably not necessarily. It was never really expected to be this year they would compete for a Super Bowl, although they kind of fell into that a little bit, into talk of being contenders earlier this year. Definitely need to temper the expectations a little bit, maybe. I mean, this is still going to be an 11 or 12 win team, but the dreams of 13 wins probably gone right now. But yeah, we'll see whether this team will actually go deep in the playoffs or whether it'll be more of a next season thing for them to truly compete. But the good news is, no matter what, this team is definitely getting built to contend for a long time with Brad Holmes and the moves that he's made and some of the rookies that they brought in. Playing lights out for the most part. Now, every now and then, those rookies will still make, some mistakes that they'll have to learn from, especially Jack Campbell at the linebacker spot in coverage. He's kind of a little static in zone coverage. Definitely want to see him move around and react a little bit more to what's going on around him. And with Anzalone potentially not being able to play in this one, that would be a huge loss for the Lions defense if he's not able to go. That would put a lot more pressure on Derek Barnes and Jack Campbell to step up. But they've both shown to be good players this season. So then of course Branch also could pick up some of the slack there in that kind of middle spot in the defense. So yeah, this will be an exciting game as as the games tend to be when these two teams get together. A tough matchup. Hopefully, a Lions win, and that will hopefully mean that they'll go deep in the playoffs and be able to play tough with any team. The defense has shown its ability to play, really good teams, super tough. So we really need to get back to that, and we have faith in the coaching staff and the players that they will end up bouncing back and get another win streak going to finish off the season strong, because the Cowboys and the Vikings are getting ever closer. Those games for the Lions closing the season out for them. The Vikings trying to inch their way back into the playoff race and the divisional race, although the Bears kind of threw a thorn in that a little bit. So yeah, it's not going to get any easier, and the competition is fast approaching. So hopefully a good win for the Lions here, and we'll talk about it again on Monday. So see you then.